of the Latin 2 exam. First half of the test, and now it's time to look at the second half, which, as you can see, consists of a reading passage. First thing I want you to make sure you always do is read the title, Getting Elephants Across a River, and read the English subtitle. Hannibal set out from Spain with an army and 38 elephants in his attempt to take Rome. Always read that first so you have some idea of what the story is about. Notice also that on the right hand side you have a little bit of vocabulary help. You have the line number, in this case line 1, and it's telling you that ratame is a word that you'll find in this line, and that ratame, which is a purple word, means raft. There's some help down in line 5. Humo takes a runt means covered with dirt. Notice that lines 4, 6, 7, 9, and 10 don't have any help at all. But don't forget to look at the vocabulary over here. Now, I'll tell you what you do when you're reading a story. It looks like a mess, right? Well, guess what? Don't translate it. Do not translate it. Look at the questions and try to figure out what the answer is by looking at specific lines. All right, now I'm going to use the same trick I did on the first page. I'm going to look for things that I can answer quickly because time is of the essence. I'm liking my chances at number 28 because it looks like they want us to do some Roman numerals. So it says, what was the length of the raft described in line 1? And immediately I see a double C. And so I'm going to guess that that's what they want. They want 200, but I better watch out. There's an L over here, which means 50. Now the question is, which one of these numbers has to do with length? Well, I think it's the long word instead of the latam word. So I'm going to go with longum, 200 feet long. That would be D. When I look at 29, 30, 31, 32, boom, 32. I can do this one quickly. I don't have to read the story at all. If I see NT inside a verb form, NT is on the inside, that means ING, C. Number 34, same deal here. I don't have to translate a sentence at all. I just want to get it. I just want to do a translation of the word. What does ERA tell us? We know this from our conjugations. ERA means, that's right, had, letter D. Okay, do I see anything else I can do quickly? 38 I'll knock out of the way. I'll tell you right now. LATI is the fourth part of the verb FERO. Now, you know, we've seen that in some of the stories. I've drawn your attention to it, but like anything else in life, it's the harder you work, the more you know. And, you know, you may have caught up with that fact, or you may not have ever known that. At any rate, LAT is the fourth part of the verb pharaoh. And then I look at number 39. From your knowledge of Roman history, this episode, what episode? We're talking about Hannibal. We're talking about elephants. Well, we've done some history question sets in our class, and you've read about the Punic Wars. B, Hannibal, the Punic Wars. Now, I don't know how many we've done, but I've used the same technique that I used on the first page. I tried to knock out of the way the questions I could do fairly quickly. Now I got to go back and see what else I can pick up. We already did 28. Let's look at 29. How did the soldiers make the raft stable? Lines 2 and 3. Let's look at the answers. They anchored it, the raft, to the bottom of the riverbed. Now that would be pretty hard to do. But anyway, that could be the answer. B, they wedged it against the bank. I don't really know what that means. C, they tied it to the opposite river bank. I'll tell you, I'm liking C right now. Why? Because when I look at lines 2 and 3, they tied it to the opposite riverbank. Notice I'm looking at the dictionary, not the sentences. They tied it right there. Something was bound. That means something was tied. Tied with chains, I'll bet. So you know what? Without even reading it, I'm going to go with they tied it to the opposite riverbank. Letter C. This is lines 2 and 3. There's riverbank, repi right there. Here's riverbank up here in the dictionary. And it happens that the word adversai means opposite. So anyway, I went back to make myself feel good and I read a few more words. But these two words right here in the dictionary already told me what was going on in that answer. All right. According to lines 3 and 4, a second raft is described as exactly like the first, not as long as the first, not as wide as the first, larger than the first, both in length and width. Well, let's look for it. 34, a second raft. Lines 3 and 4, a second raft. Secunda ratis, a second raft, but long 100 feet. The second raft was only 100 feet long. So therefore, it's not as long as the first raft. The first raft was 200 feet long. So the answer to this one should be not as long as the first. B. Don't read the rest of this stuff. It's just going to distract you and hold you back. Number 31. Why did the soldiers cover the first raft with dirt? Well, they're trying to fool the elephants, probably, right? Let's look at the answers. To make the elephants think it was solid ground. Liken that already before I look at anything else. Look up in sentences 5 through 6. Do you see anything in 5 through 6 that refers to solid ground? Yep, that's right. Terram firmam. Solid ground. So I'm going to go with my original answer, which was A. We've done 32 already. 33. How were the elephants encouraged to go on to the first raft? A. They were led by female elephants. They were driven by slaves. They were dragged by ropes. They were enticed by food. Well, I don't know. They all look pretty good to me. 5 and 6. Then the elephants. Don't know what it says. Don't know what it says. But I do see a femineis elephantis. By female elephants. Well, let's go down and look at the answers. A. They were led by female elephants. We're done. A. We did 34. We're on 35. What happened when the elephants reached the second raft? They became frightened. A barrier was erected. The two rafts were separated. Some elephants fell into the river. I don't know. They all sound pretty decent. Let's look for it. 6 through 8. We know that right here, re soluta sunt, something became unfastened. So, haec secunda ratis, second raft, and here it was joined to the first raft, but something was loosened or unfastened. So because of that one verb, something was unfastened, I think the two rafts were separated. They became disjoined from each other. That's the best I think we can do. There's nothing about frightened or a barrier or elephants falling into the river. I don't see anything like that in 6 through 8. All right? So I think our best guess here is that what was unfastened? The two rafts, they became disjoined. The bonds, the chains, wincula, were unfastened. We're getting there. How did the elephants get to the other side of the river? The current carried the raft. The raft was pulled by small boats. Swimmers pushed the raft across the river. Soldiers on the other side pulled the raft. Okay, let's go look at lines 8 and 9. What do we got? In 8 and 9. Hopefully you know these two words, parvis navibus, little boats. And I think story number 39 that we're looking at right now in class had the word naves in it, or boat. So this should be a word you may know, or should be a word you know, little boats. We're done with that. Little boats would be B. 37. What happened when the elephants made it across? Process was repeated, they were fed, they continued, both they and the soldiers rested. Let's go look. What happened? 9 through 10. Ubi primi elephanti depositi erant alii, others. Others were in this manner carried across. So it would depend if you could guess what translati sunt meant, but maybe the idea of others, as contrasted with the first elephants than others, would suggest to you that, in fact, the process was repeated. A. But you can always look to see if you see the other words for the other answers. Since they're missing, A's got to be right. I mean, there's nothing to give you a for instance for here. Give you a for instance. One answer says they continued on the journey to Italy. Really? Where does it say that? I don't see Italy anywhere. Okay? So we're moving on. We already did 38. 39 we've done. 40, we're at the end. What Latin expression best describes the Carthaginians' attitude in this passage? Well, what you're seeing here is an example of perseverance. They're loading elephants. Things aren't going exactly according to plan. It's a tough task, but somehow they get them across the river, and they don't give up. Which Latin expression exemplifies that idea? Sic semper tyrannis. Well, tyrannis means tyrants. I don't know. B. Aut viam inveniam aut faciam. Hopefully you know faciam means make and viam means road or way. I make a way. The idea is here, if there's not an easy way to do something, I will make a way to do it. So even if you don't know what inveniam means, you might come up with B from way and make. I'll make a way. Probably you don't know the other words, okay? D is art. I mean, what's art got to do with this? And if you don't know C at all, at least you can narrow it down. Maybe you can narrow this one down, but make a way is your best bet, letter B. So there's an example of dealing with a story. Read the English they give you. Look at the vocabulary on the right. Go into the questions and read the questions, not the passage. Do the questions first that don't require you to read anything, like number 32. NT is ing. Then after you've done that, you have to go back and start picking apart the questions that require a little more effort by referencing the text. But remember, only a portion of the text. Don't read it. All right? Waleta.